Our lot for the next couple of days. Rain in Darwin tomorrow. It'll be partly cloudy in Melbourne, Hobart and Brisbane. In our state, patchy rain across the northern and central inland. A few showers and storms on the ranges. It'll get to the coast later. So in the city, chance of a storm tonight. We can expect another warm and humid day again tomorrow. Local late showers or storms are on the agenda. The top 27 degrees. In the suburbs, local storms in the west this evening. Tomorrow, fine at first, but the afternoon, showers and storms again. 27 on the beaches, 30 out in the west, 24 on the mountains, and the waters, nor'east winds, they'll freshen to 20 knots during the afternoon. Choppy seas too. The UV index will be an extreme 12 in the sun, decreasing to a high 5 under cloud. Looking ahead, very warm weather until Saturday, showers, storms. Sunday, somewhat similar, and milder southerly change. Monday, less humid, a bit of shower activity. The weather in the Garno, partly cloudy, range -7 to 3, and lots of snow there, Ross.
You're just making us feel cool. Thanks,
Oh,
Brian.
mate, it helps.
Well, 16 months since the material girl gave birth to her daughter, Lourdes, the world's been given a first glimpse at Madonna and Child. The personal and portrait shots appear in Vanity Fair magazine, showing Madonna minus the heavy makeup and slinky outfits. And we're told little Lourdes, or Lola, as her mum calls her, has inherited her mother's wild temperament, despite those angelic looks. Interesting household. That's the latest from us. I'm Ross Simons. Updates soon tonight, but now Peter Luck with Today Tonight.
Thanks, Ross. Hello, I'm Peter Luck, and thanks for joining us. Tonight, an incredible bungle, the staggering incompetence of the CES.
It's just like a farce. It's Monty Python. It's nuts.
They knowingly sent a convicted criminal to look after a company's money, but he stole it all.
What do you think about your employer not being told that you were on probation?
Plus, discriminated against and abused, the battle to save one of Australia's heaviest men. First tonight, the Commonwealth Employment Service. It's changed its name to Centrelink, but maybe it should call itself Hire-a-Crim. Employers used to rely on and trust the CES to supply hard-working and honest workers, but for one small businessman, the help of the CES has destroyed him. In an incredible bungle, the CES supplied a convicted embezzler to look after the company accounts. While the CES was fully aware of his shady past, they refused to tell his new boss and, oh, how he's paid. Here's our consumer investigator, Helen Wellings.
The more time I've had to reflect on this, the more angry I become. Smile. It's just like a farce. It's Monty Python. It's nuts.
Paul Mooney runs Star Shots Photographic Studio, which has several branches around Australia. Last year, he advertised for a company secretary to help manage his expanding business.
And we were contacted by the CES to ask why we were advertising and not utilising their services. So we said, well, if they had anyone to send, that they could.
But the last thing Paul expected was that this man the CES sent, Noel O'Sullivan, would put his hand in the till to the tune of $15,000.
Well, he had access to the EFTPOS machine. He used his own card to refund money into his own account from our account, where he simply used his own card up to 50 times.
Noel O'Sullivan then had a spending spree on escort services, dining out and showering friends with gifts. But he was also working back late, alone, which aroused Paul's suspicions.
He said that he enjoyed being here so much that he didn't mind working extra time.
Bank account discrepancies of around $15,000 were eventually spotted, and Noel O'Sullivan was arrested. But then Paul Mooney got an even bigger shock.
Once he was taken to the police station, they discovered that he was in fact on probation, that he had recently come out of jail for embezzling a very large sum of money.
$80,000, in fact, from a previous employer.
Paul Mooney's point is that as an employer, he should have been forewarned. But in recommending Noel O'Sullivan for the job, the CES failed to mention his criminal record. So did his parole officer. In fact, Noel O'Sullivan had come with glowing references from Muswellbrook Correctional Centre, which Paul says failed to mention that he was an inmate while he was working there.
When you ring up for a reference, they say, yes, he was a brilliant employee. They told us that he was in charge of the payroll for 15 people. He was this, he was that, he was the other. He came early, he stayed late. Well, why wouldn't he be? He was in the nick.
Muswellbrook Correctional Centre says they did mention Noel's criminal record in a phone conversation, but Paul denies this.
On 2 occasions we phoned them, and they definitely did not say that he was an inmate.
When we approached Noel O'Sullivan, he wasn't talking.
Mr. O'Sullivan, what do you think about your employer not being told that you were on probation? The Commissioner for Corrective Services admitted to us that not letting on about Noel O'Sullivan's criminal record to a prospective employer was wrong, an unfortunate oversight. So the parole officer concerned has been disciplined for not following the proper procedure. The CES, though, is unapologetic. In a letter to us, they explain that the Privacy Act prohibits the CES divulging to employers information about job seekers' criminal records, unless the job involves contact with minors. The CES also said it's up to the employer to find out about job applicants and their history.
That just doesn't work. The CES, who know this information, must be in the position to give it.
Jonathan Fowler of the Small Business Association says Paul should take action against the CES.
Now, if they're going to hide information, they're not going to get a correct assessment to me, the employer, then they're wrong. And if it was my case, I'd be suing the CES for incompetence and negligence.
Do you think the CES should have referred you without warning? Don't want to say anything to us at all?
Noel O'Sullivan, or Morgan Kendall Chase as he now calls himself, was recently sentenced to 18 months imprisonment for 6 counts of fraud. But Paul Mooney is still angry and still out of pocket.
I mean, you can call it embezzlement, you can call it whatever you like, but he's a thief. I don't think that if somebody makes a mistake, they should be penalised for the rest of their life. But I don't think he should be put in a position of trust either, certainly not with the government's knowledge.
Our consumer investigator, Helen Wellings. And now to today's Mardi Gras police ruckus. Back in 1978, Sydney's first gay and lesbian Mardi Gras, the parade ended in a riot after the police stepped in to stop it. Fast forward 2 decades and you'll find the state's finest mounting an inside job. They're planning to march in this month's 20th anniversary parade. They'll do it in full uniform and full pay. Reporter Chris Simmond went out to meet some of the men and women who'll be marching in blue.
People are so excited that police are showing that they do have a heart.
We're paying for them to look after the justice in society, not promote something that's morally wrong.
I'm a part of the gay lesbian community, but I'm also a part of the policing community, and I'm proud to bring the two things together.
The New South Wales Police Service is coming out later this month as official participants in Sydney's gay and lesbian Mardi Gras. Up to 50 liaison officers and administrative staff working within the gay community will take part in the 20th anniversary parade.
It's the 3rd year police have been in the parade, and this year they're marching on the street. It's a good signal.
Sue Thompson, police advisor on gay and lesbian liaison, believes police presence of this kind will improve communications with the gay community.
The gay and lesbian liaison officers started off in 1990, and the important part of their role is about encouraging people to report violence.
2, 4, 6, 8, gay is just as good as straight.
It's a far cry from the late 70s, when police presence at the Mardi Gras was about maintaining peace in a community undecided about overt sexual expression.
Excitement at the fact we've reached this point. We've come totally around from the violence that marked the first parade, and here we are participating as one.
Senior Constable Stephanie Robertson and Sergeant Terry Harvey say there's a misunderstanding in the general public that all liaison officers are gay.
That's not the case. Most are actually identified as straight, and there are the element of those who are gay and lesbian.
Are you gay?
I am gay, yes.
Is that an advantage or a disadvantage?
I'd say it's neither. It's not really an issue. For the job to be done properly requires professionalism, and anyone in the job can do that.
I'm here to do a job. Who cares whether I'm gay, lesbian, a Muslim, fundamentalist, or whatever? I'm a police officer first, and I'm here to do a service to the community.
They've been specially trained and they can be anyone at your police station.
Sergeant Sue Trusty is the coordinator of this year's police appearance. Rehearsals have been booked, but little is being revealed.
Well, we do have a sense of humour, and I think by being there we're showing that. And we're also showing that we do have a real heart and a real connection with the community.
Now perhaps the big question is, what are officers expected to wear for the grand parade on February the 28th? Will they be in or out of uniform? Can we perhaps expect some lycra bike pants, maybe a bit of tinsel, a few feathers, a bit of glitter, perhaps some handcuff accessories? No such luck, says Commissioner Ryan. He's made it quite clear what he's expecting.
We are expected as a profession to still remain professional. That means full uniform and maintaining a certain standard that is expected.
And it's not just the girls and boys in blue. Administrative staff like Meryl Skyring will join the march with her family.
I have a 14-year-old son, 12-year-old daughter and a husband, and we'll all be there with the police service marching.
Our young are impressionable. Now, if they see the police marching in the parade as participants of that parade, are they going to think, hey, this is okay, we'll go and join them?
Greg Gibbons from the group Christians for Morality is doubly outraged. An opponent of the Mardi Gras, deeply offended officers will be paid for taking part.
We're paying their wages. Our taxes are paying their wages. And I think the majority of people throughout Australia, not just Sydney, would say no.
The police, who represent everybody in our community, without exception, can attend. It's optional. Those officers will be on duty.
Words of support from Police Minister Paul Whelan, who says officers are not just entitled to parade, but be paid as well.
My view is that if the police marching in the Mardi Gras parade stops one teenager from murdering one gay man, then it's fully 100% successful and is worth every minute of criticism and applause.
The boys in blue meet the boys in pink. Chris Simmond reporting there, and coming up next, the battle to save one of Australia's heaviest men.
When I first saw him, he looked as though he probably wouldn't last more than 5 years if he kept on going the way he was going.
Hello, I'm Paul Barry. This week, a witness special. Sex, lies, and the president.
Bill Clinton, the most powerful man on earth, and the affairs that could bring him tumbling down.
I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
The scandal that is rocking a nation. Who is telling the truth? In her only Australian interview, the woman who started it all, Jennifer Flowers, talks to witness.
A witness special at a special time.
Sex, Lies, and the President. Tonight, 7:30 on 7.
Great designers understand the relationship between the human form and an object. Colgate Sensation uses the natural contours of the hand to create a handle that gives fingertip control. The same applies to the bristles that follow the contours of your teeth to give you, quite simply, an outstanding clean. The Colgate Sensation Brush for a Colgate Sensation Clean.
The 5-door Kia Mentor, with its list of standard features, has always offered amazing value. Now your Kia dealer has 2 additional offers that make the Kia Mentor even better value. Offer 1, $15,990 drive away with free air conditioning. Offer 2, $17,990 drive away with auto transmission, free air and free power steering. 2 great offers for 1 great car. See your nearest Kia dealer.
For a limited time, Westpac is offering a 2-year fixed-rate home loan at 6.25% per annum. You'll find it hard to get a better 2-year fixed rate. Call 131900 or visit your local branch.
Nobody knows exactly how much Scott Gers weighs at the moment. The only scales big enough to carry him are at the local grain silo. But when Scott fell ill last year, the only vehicle big enough to get him to hospital was a furniture removal van. Considered morbidly obese, Scott's life is in danger unless he loses a massive amount of weight, and as Liz Kefford reports, Scott says he's tried and failed. But with our help, he's determined to give it one last try.
31-year-old Scott Gers is literally a prisoner in his own home.
I used to sit out on the fronting on the chair, but I can't now because there's that many people. My mate laugh at me, it's unbelievable.
You see, Scott is morbidly obese. In fact, he's so fat no one knows exactly how much he weighs because the only scales that will hold him are at the nearby grain silos, and he can't make the journey.
I suppose I'd like to lose about 6 or 7 stone if I could. It'd be a lot easier on me, but I'm trying to my hardest to do it, but I just don't know if I've got enough willpower to do it.
They say, oh, here comes that fat jelly mole, and he gets upset then and starts crying, and once they see him crying, they just keep it up.
According to Scott's mother, Barbara, her son started life as a bouncing baby and just kept growing, outwards more than upwards.
He's been big all along, like he was a big baby, but he put on weight all of a sudden. About 7, 8 years ago, he got really big like this and not able to move around.
There appears to be no real medical explanation for Scott's obesity, but because of his weight, he suffers from a range of ailments.
I'm not eating that much now. I just can't eat now, but and I reckon he's just lazy, just can't. He won't stop eating, but I just eat like a normal person.
Scott, would you like your orange drink?
Please, Mum.
There you are. What do you say?
Thank you, Mum.
3 months ago, while in Adelaide for a doctor's appointment, Scott fell over in his motel room. There was no way his mother could get him up, so she called for an ambulance. But when it arrived, Scott was too large to fit inside. Ambulance officers were forced to call for a removalist van, and even then, it took 9 men to get him onto a stretcher. In fact, it's not the only time Scott's been caught in a predicament like this. Last year, he had to be cut out of a railway carriage, which gives you an idea of how disabling his current condition is.
I just can't do that much while I'm this size, that's all.
You right?
Even walking from one room to another ends in agony.
If he walks, he gets chafed. He chafes between the legs, and then his belly comes down over his legs, and that chafes, and under his arms. He's really out of condition.
Barbara admits her son does have a weakness for junk food, but even so, claims he's not a glutton.
No, he eats less than my husband, actually. Yeah.
I've never seen anybody that big before, and yes, I was shocked. He looked very, very large. It's a very sad story.
When Today Tonight approached Adelaide nutritionist Caron Milham, she offered her services in the fight to help Scott lose weight. She fears if he gets any heavier, he won't see his 40th birthday.
When I first saw him, he looked as though he probably wouldn't last more than 5 years if he kept on going the way he was going.
She's consulted with his local doctor and is now devising a strategy which may well save his life.
As a ballpoint figure, I would say that Scott should be able to lose between 50 to 100 kilograms in that first year.
Over the next 12 months, Caron Milham will be keeping a very close eye on Scott's weight. But there's a lot more to consider than just his food intake.
It starts off with the right reasons to lose weight, and what we would initially establish is, does Scott really want to lose weight and why? And probably one of Scott's main reasons will be his health and his mobility.
Scott knows the next year won't be easy, but is prepared to try anything that will finally help him lead a normal life.
Anything to lose weight. I'm praying I'm going to lose 4 to 5 stone.
And Liz Kefford will be monitoring Scott's progress. After the break, the other end of the scale, Australia's tiniest baby. They said he'd never live, but you should see him now.
There's not a day that I don't think it's been a miracle.
This is Jean-Claude Kiddy. He comes from Val d'Isère in France, and somehow he replaced the place, because this guy has style, skill too. You only had to see him perform at the 1968 Grenoble Games. Keely lived up to expectations, inspired by the 1966-67 World Cup season, where the flamboyant Frenchman won 12 of the 16 events. At Grenoble, he won the downhill by a split second, 0.08 to be precise. Gold also in the slalom and giant slalom, for 2 seconds an age. Triple gold medalist Jean-Claude Keely had joined Tony Saylor as the only skier in Olympic history to take all events. Seven's coverage of the 18th Olympic Winter Games from Nagano is proudly presented by Telstra, making life easier.
Something magical about the touch of silk. Oh, sure, it's sensual, it's natural, but to me, it's always been magical. Just like Sunsilk's shampoos and conditioners with silk proteins. My hair now has a softness and a depth of shine, which only comes from the touch of silk.
Sunsilk, for the touch of silk.
Something to keep us going.
New Kellogg's cereal bars with the wholesome grains of sustain, the nuts of crunchy nut cornflakes, and tasty fruit of just right. And they're high in carbohydrates.
All it needs.
New Kellogg's cereal bars. Goodness you chew to get you through.
Exercise. You only have to take it regularly, not seriously.
The Nagano Games, the Olympic World's winter showpiece. Beginning Saturday with the opening ceremony on 7. Proudly brought to you by the Australian Financial Review and Fresh New South Wales Milk.
Now to Australia's amazing tot. When Jonathan Healy was born 10 weeks premature, he was no bigger than a soft drink can, Australia's tiniest baby. Because he was so small, doctors gave him next to no chance of surviving, but Jonathan did. He's astounded both his parents and doctors and is now off to school.
It's just truly amazing. I really, it's not a day that I don't think it's been a miracle that he's been so well, but to actually go to school, to get here and for him to be so intelligent, it's just marvellous.
Certainly this is a true miracle, I believe, because even in world terms, there's so few babies of this small size that have survived. And I suppose the great thing about Jonathan isn't that he's just survived, is that he has survived and is now a very healthy young boy.
Indeed, Jonathan Healy is fighting fit, but a bit on the little side. At 5.5, he's about as tall as a 4-year-old and weighs the same as his 18-month-old cousin Jake. But ask him to put his brain power to the test and he's up there with the best. Can you count to 10?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
And what about the alphabet?
Okay, A, B, C, D, U. I can't remember the rest.
Yes. We're expecting bigger, a little bit bigger, and to be about 560 grams. And I think when he woke up and he was only 374 grams, it was quite a shock. I was a little bit numb. You know, I couldn't really imagine what that would be, how small that was.
Australia's smallest baby had the courage of a giant, despite only a 10% chance of surviving. For Jonathan's mum, Gail, her pregnancy was a bit like a game of Russian roulette. At 27 weeks, doctors discovered that the placenta had broken down, that no nutrients were getting through. In other words, baby Jonathan was slowly being starved. So Gail had an emergency caesarean with doctors at Brisbane's Mardi Hospital geared up for an all-out resuscitation of Jonathan.
He was relatively mature as regards his gestational age, and so we thought it was worthwhile, you might say, giving it a go.
But Jonathan had his sights firmly set on life. His mum, who'd been trying for 14 years to fall pregnant, knew her miniature miracle was tough. So what's so special about Jonathan to you?
To me, the fact that he did survive and he's so bright and he's such a loving little boy.
For months now, Jonathan has been badgering his mum to send him to school, or at least get the uniform.
We let him keep it on for the rest of the day, and then next morning it was back on again. First thing he wanted to do was put it on.
Picture perfect, and mum proud as punch. But Jonathan couldn't face his big day without some words of encouragement from the miracle workers who monitored his tiny body all those years ago. First, a check-up with his neonatologist, Dr. Peter Gray.
Good.
And then a visit to those who work so frantically to help Jonathan beat the odds.
You remember you were that little? You were smaller than that. And you used to be in one of those incubators. You were born, what, 10 weeks early, weren't you?
Yeah, looking like a little tank.
Jonathan, you're so heavy. I can remember when you were a tiny little baby and I used to nurse you and you were so light and you're just like a can of Coke you were. And now, look at you, big man.
Coca-Cola Kid.
Yeah, he was called the Coca-Cola Kid.
Well, that name may stick forever, but today Jonathan's traumatic first days were far from his mind as he went to school on the Gold Coast, the only student at St Andrews to have made it into the Guinness Book of Records.
I'm not really sad that he's going because it's just so wonderful that he can go, that he is able to go to school.
Doctors will continue to monitor little Jonathan until he is 9, but he will never stop being an inspiration to parents of other preemie babies. Proof their precious parcels can beat the odds too.
Lexy Hamilton-Smith with one special little boy. Back with more in a moment.
And see you, and catch you later. Okay.
Oh, just look at it. Holden Commodore. Wheels Car of the Year.
Hi, Dave.
Oh, hi.
You want a lift?
Yeah. Love one.
Commodore, Wheels Car of the Year. Wouldn't you just love to drive one?
On the surface, everything looks perfect. But it's what you can't see that can harm you. Germs can live and thrive on your kitchen surfaces, even if they look clean. Now, there's Domix, a food-safe antibacterial spray that kills what you can't see and leaves your kitchen crystal clean, truly clean. Domix makes it safer.
They say the acid test with any bandage is how well it stays put in water.
Okay.
Some people go to extreme lengths to see how well 3M NexCare Active Strips flex, stretch and resist water. To see 3M NexCare Active Strips for yourself in slightly drier conditions, visit your supermarket or pharmacy. 3M NexCare, the next generation in home health care.
Tonight, I'm preparing a salad for some serious food critics. You know what they can be like. Well, I'm going to surprise them with this. New country French dressing from Kraft. It's got a nice zesty little bite. Well, here goes.
Who did your hit the cat?
Yeah, you know the ones.
I'm done.
He speaks.
New zesty Kraft country French.
Coming up, if you thought she was bad,
You on your own?
wait till you see her next
Please do come in.
on Australia's hottest series, Home and Away.
Tomorrow night we head to the Central Coast town of Woy Woy for an entertaining chat with comic genius Spike Milligan. He's nearly 80, but he's certainly funny.
This man went to an optician in Dublin. What's wrong? He said, I can't see. You can't see? No. He said, come outside in the garden. No, no, look up. He said, can you see the sun? He said, yes. He said, how bloody far do you want to see?
Don't miss Spike. Still a laugh a minute. And before we go, don't forget the witness special tonight, Sex, Lies and the President. Paul Barry speaks exclusively with Jennifer Flowers, the woman who started it all.
Does Bill Clinton have a problem with women? I mean, we've now got something like 16 supposedly documented cases of him having affairs or making approaches to people who rebuffed him.
Well, if it clucks like a chicken, if it walks like a chicken, maybe it's a chicken. I mean, apparently, if even half of the accounts are true, he apparently has a problem.
That's at the special time of 7:30, and we'll be back tomorrow night. See you then. Good night.
This program proudly brought to you by Domex.